Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for part 2 of Higher or Lower. We did part 1, which was the top half teams in the Championship yesterday. We're looking at the bottom half today, and we are looking at March the 5th, round 36, however you want to look at it, 10 games to go. Will your team be higher or will your team be lower? If you're interested in the team that's in the top half, do check out the other video. Maybe watch that one and then come back to this one if you want to go all the way down. They should work very, very well together. We recorded that one yesterday afternoon before Reading 0, Fulham 7. So I have had to do a little bit of jiggery-pokery with the numbers today because that one game has moved the needle just a little bit. What you're going to see is we're going to factor in these 5 things, and then if there's any hunches, I can add them in, and you can get your ideas in the comments as to higher or lower. Remember, please, so important, so important. I know it's say every video, please leave your bias at the door. Let's not just automatically out of hope say that your team's going to be higher because you want them to be. Let's look at the evidence, and the evidence I'm using is the amount of games left. We've got plenty of disparity there. Some teams have more games than other. We're going to look at the form table, and we're going to look at it in respects of, is your team higher in the form table than there are in the league table or lower, because that does predict the direction of travel sometimes. Going to look at XG, and again, is your team plus or minus where the XG table has them. We're going to look at the average opponent position, and we're going to look at the average opponent position in the form table. And just to reiterate, in terms of average opponent position, we are looking at the real league table. So that means Derby and Reading, who've had points deductions, I've judged them on points actually scored. Because particularly in Derby's case, I think that's the right thing to do. They're not the worst team in the league, whereas the league table would have you believe in. So I think they're something like 14th in the real league table. Right, let's do this. Sheffield United in 13th. I think most of us could probably do this without even looking at the evidence in terms of higher or lower. They're in good form. They had an underperformance in the first half of the year. So the answer's probably going to be higher, but let's look at the numbers. Anyway, yeah, look, everything points towards it, doesn't it? They're 4 games behind, so they've got games in hand. They are 8 places above in the form table where they are in the league table, which predicts a rise, not always. XG, 2 places above where they are in the XG table, league table, actually, you know, that way round. It's not the first thing I'll fall over this video. Average opponent position, not the greatest, but look, I think, so look, they're going to be facing on average, 12.4, around right in the middle in terms of the league position and in terms of the form table. 10.4, so 14th and 19th. Not the easiest in terms of opponents, but I think the overarching narrative with Sheffield United is one of underachievement trending upwards. So look, I've got to go in with a pretty straightforward that they will be higher, 13th in the table, plenty of traffic ahead of them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. On we go to Preston North End. This is a tricky one. I need Ben HD for this one, don't I? Preston are in 14th, 31 points. So there's, you know, there's material for them to plough through ahead. 3 games behind as well. It's difficult with Preston when we go away from the numbers because it's a new manager who won 1 game, then had about 3 weeks off, won another game, and then they lost in the FA Cup. So hard to tell in terms of the Ryan Lowe reign. Form is good though. Looks 7 places higher in the form table than the league table, but 3 places below in the XG table. Average opponent, that ranks 10th. And opponent form ranks 6th. So I have to say, other than that XG, with Ryan Lowe with games in hand and the average opponent looking decent, it does look like a fair argument for Preston to be sustaining or going higher. Look, they're 14th. I don't necessarily expect them to be in the top 10 per se, but I think looking at that, I'll go for higher. You let me know your thoughts in the comments. Bristol City are in 15th spot after that win against Millwall. Worth pointing out that the 2 teams directly below Bristol City have 3 games in hand. everyone below them has a minimum of 1 game in hand, except Derby, who are obviously 19 points back, and perhaps not an issue, but we'll come on to Derby. Form, they are 5 places below in the form table, where they're on the league table, which would imply a trend down. XG, apparently they're exactly where they are, but look at that. Opponent form, 4th, and their average opponent will be 15.5 going up until 10 games to go, which is lower, essentially, than Bristol City are in 15.5 of a place. And look at the, in terms of when you take the form of the opponent, best run in the league. So I hate to say this, I've got 3 potential positives, but it's only the games in hand that really drags it down. So there's almost an argument for Bristol City either staying exactly where they are, or maybe a little slight move up purely based on the opponents. But I hear you saying, if you're watching the video, they can't all go up, Ben. No, they can't. So I don't know. I haven't given myself the option of staying exactly where they are. But the fixtures look all right for Bristol City, don't they? Get your thoughts in on that one. I need some help with that one in the comments. 16th position is Luton, who are 4 games behind. They've only played 22. The form table, they're exactly where they should be. They're 16th in the form table, 16th in the league. However, and we've had this all season, the XG table, Luton create more chances than they take. And look at that, plus 12. Goodness me. So Luton are 4th in the XG table, 16th in the league table. Average opponent position, not the greatest, but 19th and 16th, by the way, in those 2 rankings. I've got to have Luton going higher, surely, haven't I? And this is all pointing in one direction, I know. But look, teams in the bottom half are more likely to go higher because there's more places to go up. Simply put, I don't know. But look, with Luton, the 4 games in hand have got to help. And yeah, you would see an upward trend. But here I'm wondering, not everybody can go up. And we've had arguments, certainly for Sheffield United. Sheffield United, definitely. Preston and Bristol City, less. Maybe I would revise them, looking at who's below them. But yeah, Luton, you'd argue, with the XG and the games in hand, that they could be moving up in the world. We'll see. Again, I'll reiterate, they can't all go up. Get your thoughts in the comments. Swansea are 4 games behind. They are in 17th. They've lost 3 on the trot. So games in hand, ahoy. In the form table, they're 4 places above where they are in the league, which is 17th. XG not good, and average opponent position not good at all. Look, 24th and 21st. Now, with the XG, the overperformances in the main come from 2 players, which is Patterson and Pirro. Laird has gone as well and jumped to Bournemouth. So maybe I need to have my first either sustain or down with Swansea, which I didn't expect, to be honest. And maybe they'll write it in those last 10 games. But honestly, looking at those numbers, I think Swansea are better than 17th place. But there's more of an argument for them to sustain or trend down than to go higher. But I don't know. I don't know how comfortable I feel saying that, because I think Swansea are better than 18th. But look, that's what the numbers say at the moment. Are they in a false position with the 3 straight defeats? I don't know. I'm struggling with Swansea, but on the basis I've been very positive about lots of teams. Let's say sustaining or downwards for the Swans. But yeah, not sure how comfortable I feel with that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. 18th is Birmingham, who are 2 games behind. A little bit of a mess, actually, aren't they? Form, they are 1 place below in the form table where they are in the league table, which implies a trend down, just outside of that bottom 6. XG, 11 places higher they should be, and Scott Hogan is one of those names that's been guilty of wasting a lot of XG when you look into those numbers. Don't want to pile in on any individual player. The average opponent position and opponent form looks good. However, when you get to this point, those opponents are still, even at 13.2 and 13.5, above where Birmingham are in the league table. Traditionally, they're good at kind of pushing away and winning the get out of the bottom 6 cup, aren't they? But a little bit more difficult to see this season. However, you do have to start to say, when you throw in your hunches and your big global views on this, who's coming out of the bottom 3 above them? And there's a 4-point gap as well with everyone on the same. So it's hard to see Birmingham dropping down despite those factors. So look, I'll have to go with Birmingham sustain or go up, with more of an eye on sustaining where they are in 18th. Let me know your thoughts on Blues in the comments. I think transfer window is important for them as well. And my crystal ball isn't working there, put it that way. 19th in the table are Hull. We're into the bottom 6. 4-point gap now. Hull are 2 games behind. Now, they're 9 places above in the form table where they are in the league table. 5 places above in the XG, which is good. However, there is a bit of a sense of a real outlier peak. Those, I think it's 4 wins in a row and 2 draws, wasn't it, for Hull, excuse me, have now turned into 2 defeats. So I just wonder whether some of those numbers, we're going to look back at the end of the season and say, that was an overperformance for 6 games with Hull. Look at the average opponent position. It's not good. Their average opponent leading up to 10 games to go is, in the table, pretty much 11th, and in the form table, pretty much 10th. So, and with the knowledge that Cardiff are below them and what I may be about to say, I think Hull is going to be either sustaining or down. Let me know what you think. It all depends whether that 4 wins and 2 draws, 14 points in 6 games, that's amazing form they had, was just a big lump in the points per game form. I think it might be. Let me know what you think in the comments on Hull. Right, we're into the bottom 5 now. Cardiff are 2 games behind. They've got Steve Morrison in now. The form table has them 3 places higher. The XG 7 places higher. I do have to admit that XG's been a long way off since McCarthy was there. So I'll have to do some drilling into the numbers and look into the if there's any obvious reasons why. In terms of opponents, there's a bit of a disparity there. Look, we sometimes get this, don't we, between league table and form table. So it looks like some of Cardiff's opponents are improving because there's an 8th point disparity there. Their average opponent position is 22nd and their average form is 14th. It means they've probably got to play both, well, Derby particularly. There's a big swinger in that one, isn't there? I think Cardiff are going to move up just purely based on who's around them and sort of direction of travel. I think Steve Morrison get a bit of a move there. Maybe that XG in that form. I'm not talking tons of places, but I feel fairly confident in saying either sustaining or higher for Cardiff. Let me know your thoughts as we go into the bottom 4. And Reading, well, we had some different numbers on this before yesterday. Reading, a lot going wrong for Reading. They're in 21st, and the outside of the numbers picture is 6-point deduction, troubles with, fans are not really behind the manager anymore. They're turning on the owners if they hadn't already. I'm not saying that's unreasonable, by the way. I said FFP deduction, didn't I? Lots of players out of contract, lots of injured players, knocked out by... Everything's now starting to snowball to point towards a bad few months for Reading. So, and we're really into our team's going to get relegated or not. So this is almost the most vital one, isn't it? Because I've got one hovering right above the relegation zone. They've got a 3-point gap. In terms of just Reading, well, let's look at it because we really need to have a look at Peterborough and Reading together, don't we? So maybe we'll do that. I feel nervous about this already. Form, they're 21st in the league. They're 22nd in the form table. XG, they're 21st in the league. Do you know what? I think that stat must be wrong. Let me just go to my spreadsheet. In the XG table, Reading... I think we've got an incorrect stat there. I think that should say 0. So my apologies. I think that one's incorrect. I think it should say 0 there. Disregard that. But things changed yesterday with their opponents, obviously getting Fulham out of the way. Fairly middling in terms of Reading's opponents. Do you know what? I'm going to keep my powder dry until we've had a quick look at Peterborough, because really, that's where I am with this. It feels like one or the other right now in terms of who's going to be in the relegation zone with 10 games to go. So we'll hold fire on Reading. Let's have a look at Peterborough. 3 games behind. So in terms of fixtures, they've got 1 more to play than Reading. I mean, games in hand, games in schmand down the bottom because these teams don't win. So our games in hand, that bigger advantage, really. Points on the board, far, far more important down in the bottom 6, I think, as the Rotherham situation proved last season. XG, they should be one place higher. Form, they should be one place lower. Average opponent doesn't look terrible. 11th, 15th, although we did have Reading 12th and 12th. Look, I have peddled the narrative for a little while. Chaos relegates clubs. And whatever you say about Dara McAntony at Peterborough, he compares favourably with the Reading ownership, doesn't he? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in on the chaos factor that Reading may well fire their manager and they may well have some players sold before the end of January. Peterborough won't, I don't think, on either count. So I am going to say Reading higher. I'm not. I'm going to say Reading lower, Peterborough higher. Let's switch them around with 10 games to go based on the chaos factor. Okay, let me know your thoughts on that. And yeah, I can see the comments already saying, oh, Ben, you're just saying that in reaction to 7-0 last night. No, I'm not. I promise I'm not. I promise I've factored in other stuff, and there's a worry with Reading. 23rd is Barnsley, which is obviously equally worrying. 2 games behind. Form, worst in the league. XG 22nd. Average opponent, not great. Halfway up the table. Look, 12.2 in the league and 12.2 in the form table. And the question is, are Derby going to catch Barnsley? And again, we probably have to do these two together because so much depends at Derby on whether the takeover happens. If the takeover doesn't happen and they sell 2 or 3 players, I don't think it matters what Barnsley do. I think it's going to be a struggle for Derby to catch them. So again, we're up and down. Purely on form, Derby will catch Barnsley. The way the two teams are trending is complete opposite, isn't it? Let's have a quick look at Derby and we'll do the two together again. Sorry, hedging my bets. So, Derby are 24th. They have... Excuse me, it's not recurring, I promise. Has that joke got old? I've been doing that right through the pandemic now, haven't I? Right, Derby's form is 16 places higher than it is in the league table. And that's even... or did I do that with the real league table? Have I got that stat right? I think they're right high in the league table. Let me just check my spreadsheet again. Sorry. I think the overarching narrative, 8th, 24, 16. Yeah. Yeah, that's incorrect, isn't it? We should have Derby in the real league table as being higher than that. But don't worry about that. We know in general that Derby are overperforming their league position. Their league position is false because of the points deduction. It gets a bit confusing. You see I'm getting confused here. Minus 10 in the XG in terms of where they are in the... See, I've done the real table on that one and not the other one. I can see the mistake I made. My apologies. What we can say is average opponent position. Do you like that? First. Derby have got the easiest run up to 10 games to go in terms of the league table. In terms of the form table, still desirable. 15.7 and 13.5. So look, this depends completely on off-pitch stuff. So my position on this is that Barnsley and Derby will swap if Derby get taken over and don't sell players. Is that going to happen? Who the hell knows? So maybe I'm going to hedge my bets on that one. But look, I've given a position and off-pitch stuff. So look, my position is I'm going to say Barnsley lower, Derby higher, unless Derby don't get taken over, in which case they will sell players and that will probably kill their run that they're on at the moment. There we go. Thank you, everybody. I think I've got to the end. Higher or lower? Look, forgive me on a few of those numbers things. I'm not a stats guy. Come on, I'm a musician by trade. So apologies if they're... I've done it all by hand as well. I know people use Excel spreadsheets and get everything worked out. So my apologies if I had a couple of stats in and out. But I'm trying to give you the hunch plus the numbers. So hopefully you can just focus on my effort rather than my ineptitude to lose them. Get involved in the comments. Really, really eager to get your thoughts on this. As usual, please leave your bias at the door and try and use the numbers and have a bit of balance. But I think the thing I found there was plenty of arguments for teams in the third quartile there, i.e. the top half of the bottom half. Plenty of arguments that they could go higher. And they can't all go higher, can they? Well, they could, but then we're going to get some dropping from the top half. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. And you know, it's difficult to predict the whole table, but your team in isolation would be fair. Just up or down. Fairly simple with 10 games to go, and we'll revisit it then. Thank you, everybody, for watching. The grind starts again tomorrow. We're back with the Championship, and we'll be here with the live stream for the predictions. Please hit like on the video. Really helps out. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you as the madness now recommences and we head into a mental February. And I tell you what, at the end of February, we're going to be very much more clear on the direction of travel for a lot of teams. Not all, but a lot of them. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Do check out yesterday's video where we did the top half. And it's lovely big over and out from me.